Well, hello and welcome to PM Personality Profile. My name is Nana Ansakwao the Fourth, and I'm here to do a historic interview. What I have in my hands is the first ever oil to come out of the Jubilee fields, the famous Ajungo. Through the 1800s to the late 1900s, as many as 100 exploratory oil wells have been dug, but none had come out with commercial quantities until Cosmos and the EO group came together, including Anadako, and struck oil. But the story leading to the event will absolutely amaze you, and that whole story is in this book called Pursuit of Jubilee. I'm here to talk to a man who I can proudly say is my brother-in-law. Yes, George Yaw Owusu is my brother-in-law, and he's written a book in Pursuit of Jubilee, and will amaze you about the length to which he went before Jubilee Field happened. After 12 companies saying no, one will ask, why did he keep fighting on? Folks, this is one of the interviews I always ask that get the children around, history will be told, life will be changed, and you will not leave the TV screens the same way as you got there. Well, thank you very much for staying. And before I even introduce my guest, listen to this. When I was younger and less experienced, I thought a little differently. When I would hear of a successful Ghanaian putting their money in a Swiss bank, I would think, why would you do that? Bring every dollar home so our countrymen can enjoy its benefits. I no longer think that way. I understand why they take their money and run before someone decides to mess them up just because they can. Folks, we're looking at In Pursuit of Jubilee, and we're talking to the ultimate comeback kid. I've known him from afar, and I did not think of him that way. But here's a man who started from grace to grass, to grace to grass, to grace to grass. And I'm here talking to George Yaw Owusu to find out what keeps him going. George, thank you very much for inviting me to your home.
Thank you.
I've been chasing this interview for a long time. And as you say in Ghana, I thank God I got it.
Okay.
George, what keeps you going? I got through your book. Born, with a silver spoon, father was, had the funds and made sure that you lived well. Father dies, times are hard. Go to America, times are hard. You study, you get a good job, and each step of the way, it's just one punch after the other after the other. What keeps you going?
Well, thank you very much for this interview. This is the first time I'm speaking publicly about this oil discovery and about my life.
I am honored.
Okay. Because a lot of things happened, and because of that, I didn't even want to say anything. We were advised by our attorneys, our lawyers, not to talk about it. And so for 10 years, I kept quiet for most of the time. But I think people need to know, our children need to know, and for posterity's sake, the story must be told. That's why I decided to write a book. And
I must commend you, because I'm one person who always bash our own, that we are always reading stories about Richard Branson did this, he did that, but we have our own heroes who don't often write their stories. So I commend you fully for writing this for posterity's sake.
Thank you very much. And in an answer to your question, I think this all comes from my dad, from my father, George Yaw Owusu, from Ajimakase Asantemem. This man went to school only for 3 years, class 3. He became a very successful businessman in Kumasi. He had petrol stations, one of them in Bantuma, very close to the mortuary.
Okay.
That station was opened in 1955.
Whoa.
Okay. Then he had...
That's in the Gold Coast?
Yes, in the Gold Coast. Several petrol stations. So then maybe I can say I was born into the oil and gas business because my father used to sell petrol at that time. And his work ethics is what pushes us. He had 21 kids 21 children, 3 wives and 21 children. And most of us are very, very successful.
Wow.
Because he pumped into us the idea that you cannot be all right if you don't work hard. So even though he was, at that time, a rich man, he had several homes, very big building in Kumasi, Ashtown, about 3 cars at that time, he still pushed us very, very hard. And he was able to educate all of us, send some of us to the United States. So I think that is where you ask the question, what pushes me?
Yes.
My father is still pushing me from the grave.
You see, I will still stay there. You see, because your father died at quite an early age.
Yes.
And you go through quite some hard times. So by then, any average person may have lost a bit of that zeal. The reason why I'm saying this, when you were chasing oil, Ghana was known as the graveyard. There's just pockets of oil, some drops in Elmina. So, I wonder how much resilience you have to chase the unknown.
Well, they have a saying that quitters don't win and winners don't quit. I really had the belief that we have oil in Ghana. I didn't know where or how we were going to do it, but I stuck to my guns because I really wanted to work hard at it. And anytime I decide to do anything, I will work on it until it gets to a point of no return. And so that's part of the work ethics I was trained on.
George, have you read the book?
Oh, yeah.
George, the point of no return was in about chapter 5. Even though the book goes through so many chapters.
Yes.
You know, there was so much point of no return. You know, you have to juggle between your work, your family, and here, and companies who did not want to even know.
Yes.
There's no other secret other than just fight on?
Yes, you have to. You, like I said, you cannot quit. You believe in something, you go for it. And the work ethics, which was ingrained in me at a young age, pushed me. I'll tell you a story. Sir. I didn't have all the PhDs and all the KLMs. A KLM is a degree which make you fly, you know. I only have a BA. A BA says it will take you only to London.
To London,
yes. So
you have to transit.
That's right, and transit before I go to America. And I didn't have that, but I was a common school teacher. I went to Sweden Secondary School, then to Wesley College. After teaching for 5 years, I decided to go to the United States. Over there, no parents, no support system. I have to work hard. I was a janitor, cleaning floors. I was a dishwasher, washing dishes. I was a security guard. I've done all that. And because I didn't have papers at that time.
And your workmates used to wonder why you were always in the toilets for long hours.
Yes, I'll be getting to it. So I decided to go to school. And somebody advised me, hey, the best way to do that is to take a GED. So I took the GED, passed it, and I registered for the junior college. I worked full-time and went to school full-time. So how do you study? I get up in the morning about 4:30, take the bus to my job, leave the job about 2:30 and go to school, come back at 10:30. And as soon as you get home, eat your dinner and go to bed. So how do you study? I always went to school with a suitcase full of books. And I was a dishwasher in the hospital at that time. So in between washing dishes, I'll take my books and go to the toilet and close the door. In that kingdom, nobody will come there. And so these American kids were always making fun of, oh, this African guy, he's always in the toilet. Maybe he has some problem. They didn't know that is where I used to study. Wow. And like they say, when they say, well, you always find a way. Okay, and I got all A's, studying in the toilet. and advice to some of these young men and women who wants things on the silver platter. Sir, you have to sweat before you get it.
Before you get it.
And I have to work very, very hard for it.
Now we're going to go through, so people wonder why I'm talking about resilience. So you were in America, and Kufuor, then a candidate of the NPP, comes to say, look, bring investors to Ghana, particularly oil, so that we can also be an oil growing future. And the seed is sown, and you decide that, by then you're always in the petrochemical industry in America.
Yes.
So you decide, why don't I get a few guys and go and try and get a block?
Okay, this is what happened. I used to work for a chemical company called Arco Chemical. I worked there for several years until there was a big explosion, killed about 17 people. And so, luckily, I was spared, thanks to the big man upstairs. So I quit that job, took another, worked for another company called Eltes Chemical. I was an environmental coordinator, environmental manager for the company. Until Shell came along, they wanted to bring all the environmental issues in-house, and they wanted 8 people to manage the whole of the United States. And this Ashton boy was selected as one of them. I had 8 states in the US, and I had to travel among the states every day. I used to be on an airplane every day. In other words, I go from one town to the other. Next day, I took another plane to another town. Okay, so I know the United States very, very well. During the elections, Mr. Kufuor came. That's the first time I met Mr. Kufuor. I didn't know him from Adam. And when he came, as part of, he was coming to raise funds to support his party or his candidacy. And he met us and he told us, hey, you guys live in Houston, petrochemical capital of the world. Why don't you help out? That's the first time the alarm bell went inside my head. Hey, maybe we can do something. But even then, I didn't know what or how I was going to do it. But that was the time the first seed was implanted in our head. It was done by former President George Yaw Owusu when he came to visit us in Houston.
Anyway, because of time, so you start, you call your friend who was also in the petrochemical industry, and then eventually you get Vanco. Bring Vanco to Ghana, sign an MOU, and I think they, come back and stab you in the back.
No, okay, this is what happened. When Kufuor came to power, he asked Mr. Kandapara, who was then the energy minister, to go and come to Houston to find investors. And because I work in the industry, I was told, or I was called and asked to see if we can help him organize our company executives to come and meet him. I did that. And after the meeting, somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, Mr. Owusu, can you bring the minister to my office? Which I did. And through that, we were able to get Vanco together. The man at that time promised me that, hey, I'm going to make you the country manager. I said, okay, fine. I was tired of the United States. At that time, I've lived there for about 30-something years. I wanted to come home. So, hey, let's do it. Okay. But as soon as the man got his block, guess what? Kicked me out. Because I didn't sign any agreement with him. I was not a full-blooded entrepreneur, so nothing happened. So that's why I was kicked out. Okay. So when I was kicked out, one of his geologists called John Craven.
But you worked hard for that block before you got kicked out.
I was the one.
See, that's one of the things that impressed me about you, coming back again. Because that was hard.
Yes. When it happened, the Owusu family wasn't very happy. Because, of course, when you go back and forth to Ghana and you don't bring any home, the boss comes in and says, hey, Ghana now, one animal the cry, Ghana. See? And my wife, of course, wasn't very happy with me because I was traveling back and forth. I was putting my job at Shell, jeopardy, to follow this dream. And so when it didn't happen, it was a great disappointment to us.
Yeah. Then NX.
Yes. NX, the guy's name is John Craven. He used to work for Vanco. He pulled me aside and said, George, okay, why don't you and I go get a block? I said, me? He said, yeah. I don't have 2 pennies to rub together. I said, don't worry. I'll bring a company. So he brought a company from Ireland. So that's the second oil company we brought to the country. Okay. So we signed an MOU. Government did everything ready to go.
This time with the contract and everything?
This time, that's when I brought my company. Because the previous one, because I didn't go in with any company, the man just kicked me out. Yeah. So I said, look, this time, that's why I brought in the EO group. E for my partner, Dr. Kwambe Wedusai, and O, myself. At that time, he gave us 15%. So we were very happy, did everything, signed the MOU with the government, and they gave it to me and asked me to go to Houston for this guy to sign his portion. I took it to him and said he won't sign. Hey, Papa, why? Come to find out, at that time, the price of oil has dropped to $25, and he was afraid that if you sign the agreement, you won't get partners. So he abandoned it.
And once you sign, you have a limited time frame to start.
You have 3 years to drill a well, seismic and a well. costing millions and millions of dollars. And he was afraid that he would maybe not be able to find partners to do it.
Because this is a graveyard.
Right. And so he abandoned it. So at one point, this whole Jubilee field, Westcape 3 Points, was mine. Because at that time, my only partner who had accompanied me to get the MOU had left. And it was up to me to go and find somebody with the technical know-how and money and experience to partner with to come in and do the drilling.
Now, that's the very interesting part, because Craven had then mentioned a name in passing. Moseline, Mosema, Moses something or something. And I wondered the desperation in thinking, well, the name sounds like Moses something in Texas. And therefore, let me just go through phone books, see if I can find this. But I want to hear the story from you.
That's a very interesting story. So when Craven abandoned us again, because at that time, it was still very, very disappointing. So I came and put the papers in my drawer. 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I said, no, I need to do something with this. So first of all, I took these papers and went to Shell. That's the company I work for. Hey, this is what I got. From Ghana. Where? Ghana, where is it? I don't know. Okay. Close to Nigeria. Oh, okay, Mr. Owusu. If you get a block in Nigeria, call us. Now Ghana there. Forget it. Then I went to Exxon. Kicked out. Texaco, at that time Texaco was there. Chevron, I mean, I went to 12 companies, they all kicked me out, including this company who's here now, another Texan company, Hess. I went to Hess. Hess also kicked me out, they didn't want to hear about Ghana. Anyway, so I remembered when
but
John
all
Craven,
this time, I mean, these are big boys in the industry. I mean, don't you, I mean, if Shell doesn't want to know, is there something, well, then maybe there's nothing there. Because if there was, they would come.
I've invested so much time, energy, and this thing, and I didn't want to let it go.
Wow.
And because of that, I wanted to take it all to the end. And if I hit a brick wall, I know that, hey, I've done everything I could to do it. And so I was not going to let it go. And when it didn't happen, I said, okay. John Craven then mentioned Mosman. So I called John Craven again and said, hey, give me his phone number. I don't know. Give me his company's name. I don't know. Okay, what is his first name? I don't know. All I know is the man is in Dallas, and his last name is Mosman. Okay. So I live in Houston. Dallas is about 240 miles away. How do you find Mosman when you're in Houston? Just like asking somebody in Accra, go to Kumasi. There's a man called Kofi Mensah. Oh, Kofi Owusu. When you go there, when you find this man, he'll help you. At that time, internet was not as robust as it is, and phone numbers were not as rampant as anybody can just pick anybody's phone number just like that. So what I did was, I called the telephone company.
So 3 names for, is it 50 cents?
Yes. And when you pay 50 cents, they give you 3 names. So say, give me every Muslim in the Dallas phone book. So they'll give me 3 names, 50 cents.
Andrew Muslim, Bill Muslim,
Tom Misper, Peter Muslim, Kwame Muslim, the whole 9 years. Okay, so I compiled all these names. And so one night after work, I started calling, cold calling. Are you Mr. Muslim whose company went to Equatorial Guinea? Nope. On and on and on. Around about 10, 15 something.
I mean, some may be angry.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were all cursing me out and say, hey, look, don't be calling this house again.
Do you know what time it is?
So finally I got hold of this lady. As soon as I mentioned, oh yeah, that's my dad, I'll bring him. So that's when Mr. Muslim came.
Hold on, let me take a quick break here and come back and do Mr. Muslim. But this is interesting. Get a surname and ring a whole state to find out if, by any chance, there will be one person with this surname who is in the petrochemical industry. Don't move. Well, welcome back to this very, very interesting and exciting story, In Pursuit of Jubilee, a true story of the first major oil discovery in Ghana. This is obviously by George Yaw Owusu with M. Rutledge McCall. What a beautiful book, what a beautiful story. And I already commended him that, you know, our heroes of our time need to put this down so people can read and emulate. And I mean, if you read this book, if you don't walk away with anything at all, the sense of not giving up, you should definitely walk away with that. But here we are in, you know, Dallas, Texas, trying to find a very common name as Musselman. And you're ringing from, you know, Peter Musselman, you know, Andrew Musselman, and eventually you get to Jim Musselman. And what, the daughter picks up the phone?
Yes, she did. And when I told her my story, yes, he said, that's my dad. So he brought the man in and put him on the line. I spoke to him for a few seconds. I had 2 seconds to convince him to come to Ghana. And obviously, I was able to do that. And so he said,
You didn't think you were a con man?
Well, no. For first, at that time, he didn't. Because, man, Cosmos was a brand new company. They've just sold their, it used to be called Triton. Yeah. They went and discovered the oil in Equatorial Guinea. And they formed a new company. So this was their first asset. So actually, I think they were also hungry, looking for a place to go. And so it wasn't very difficult. But then he referred me to his geologist called Brian Mastad. He asked me to come talk to him the following day. So I went down with one guy called Alex Abebio. Alex was formerly employee of GMPC. So I went to him. So he was very, very skeptical when he first. He thought I was one of those
419.
Thank you very much. I didn't want to say Nigerian 419, but you said it.
419.
And so he wanted me to, of course, he wanted me to prove myself. He asked for my ID, and I showed him my business card. Tell him, hey, look, I work for Shell. I'm in the industry. I understand what is going on, but this is something unique. Because you don't get blocks that way. And so I understand why the guy was skeptical. But to make a long story short, I was able to convince him. They decided to come to Ghana. And that's when, okay.
Let me interrupt. Where was Kufuor in all this? Because I know I'll ask you the question again. So where was Kufuor in all this?
Kufuor was nowhere to be. No, Kufuor was the president of Ghana at that time.
And you were hustling somewhere?
I was hustling Dallas. Kufuor knew nothing, zero, about what I was doing.
Wow.
Zero.
So we are convincing the Musselmans.
Yes, I convinced them, and they were prepared to come. Okay, so what I did was I called Mr. Sechabankwa, who was then board chairman, and I called Mr. M.O. Boateng, who was the managing director for GMPC, set up an appointment to bring them in. And they landed in this country in January 2004, January 12 to be exact. That's when they decided to come. In fact, they wanted to come in 2003, December, I said, Christmas time. Ghana for any hampers. So everybody's looking for hampers. So when you go there, forget it. Nothing's going to happen. So let's wait until January after they've gone through their Christmas festivities. So we did that, and they came in January. And because these guys had an experience, they put Equatorial Guinea on the map. People thought Equatorial Guinea had no oil. Several companies have been there and failed until Cosmos. These same guys went there and were successful. So what we did was we brought one of the best oil founders in the world to Ghana. And they are the ones who discovered the Jubilee field. And there's one point I need to make here. Jubilee field was not discovered by Tullow. It was discovered by Cosmos.
But even before they discovered it, they backed out again.
Yes, they did. When I invited them in, before they came to Ghana, 2 or 3 weeks later, they called me back and said, Mr. Owusu, I'm sorry, we are not interested.
That's silly.
I said, okay, fine. I waited for another 2 or 3 weeks, and I called them again. Not knowing the reason why they weren't interested was that they were now forming their company. They didn't have the finance. I found out later. They didn't have the finance to pursue whatever they were going to do.
Yeah.
So they kicked me. They said no. And so when I called them back later, I said, okay, fine, let's talk. Okay, so you talk about persistence. That's one aspect. So I went back, and it's okay, fine, let's do it. And first they checked me out, make sure that I was who I said I was, and they came to Ghana, and
See, but by this time, I would decide maybe desperation or anxiety had set in that you had renegotiated downwards from 15% of your original share to now 3.5.
Well, we were negotiating it from a very, very, very weak position. Here we were. 12 or 13 companies have rejected us because they said there was no oil in Ghana. And nobody wanted to come with us. So if somebody says, I'll give you 3.5%, what do you say? Are you decorated? Because everybody believed, they used to call this place the graveyard for oil companies. Because since 1896, 100 wells, over 100 wells have been drilled on this Atlantic Ocean.
Nothing came out.
And nothing. Well, I don't want to say nothing. There were shows, there were gas, but most of them were non-commercial. And because of that, Ghana didn't have a good reputation in the industry. So the Cosmos guys took a big risk. And I get back to that, there's a risk and reward. You all know that in economics or finance. When the risk is high, the reward obviously have to be higher.
Coincidentally, Cosmos has a rig that's coming from Equatorial Guinea.
It wasn't Cosmos. That's another part of the story. At that time, oil prices have gone up. By the time Cosmos were prepared to drill, the price have gone up so high that all the rigs were busy. So they couldn't find a rig. And you have a timeline.
Oh dear.
If you don't drill by a certain period of time, you lost your contract.
And you start afresh?
They may kick you out.
Okay.
Or
I mean, you have to reapply.
Oh, yes. Or sometimes they may fine you, or you may just lose the block. So Cosmos was desperate to find a block, to find a rig. So you see, we've taken the block in 2004, 2005, we did some seismic, and so we were supposed to drill before
3 years is coming up.
And that's how a company called Anadako came in. So Cosmos was looking for somebody, or a partner. And so they found Anadako. Anadako had a rig which had been to India, drilled 21 wells, and they all failed. It was on its way from India around the Cape of Good Hope back to the United States. And Cosmos begged them, hey, can you drill this well for us?
Well, they're dropping.
They're dropping. So, so they dropped me at Kejitia. So they took him to Kejitia. They drilled the first well. Boom, 1.2 billion.
But then Anadako wanted a share in it.
Of course, because it was their rig. Okay, so when Anadako came, Cosmos was desperate. They said, okay, we'll give you the rig, but whatever you have 50-50. So Cosmos had to share whatever they had 50-50 with Anadako for them to use their rig. That's how Anadako got into the West Cape 3 Points block.
Wow. So there you are, asleep at night, your phone rings, and the guy says, we found something. It must be, I mean, if you have a heart problem, you could.
Yes. I've worked on this since 2003. In fact, 2002. See, I brought Vanco, then NX, now Cosmos. Cosmos came in 2004. So 2007, I was asleep at Golden Tulip, one of those chalets. That's where I lived at that time. Around about 2 a.m., I received a phone call from Thomas Menu. Yaw, I'm sad in the Biaba. I'm saying, what?
Jesus Christ.
What do you say? What's this? So I got up in the hotel room that night, put on some blue jeans, and it was 2 a.m., dead at night. Everybody was asleep. I couldn't sleep. I was walking around the hotel. You know, see, radical. Okay, I was going crazy.
Let it be.
And then he told me, but shh, don't say a word. I said, how can I?
I'm not.
So the next morning, I was walking. You know, I felt, I don't have words to describe how I felt that day.
By this time, what was the relation between your wife and you? Because it's been dragging on too long.
Yes, my wife was in the United States. Of course, most women don't like to be away from their spouses or their husbands. And I was here in Ghana. She was in the United States. And she didn't know what was going on.
Because you were not earning enough. I mean,
no. Oh, yeah. When I came here, Cosmos was paying me only $3,000. $3,000. Here I had a job at Shell, which I had to quit my job to come to Ghana. Okay, take a risk. Okay, I had a very good job at Shell, a house, wife, okay, everything. And so when I decided to follow this dream, of course, no woman will be happy. When the husband has a stable job, he comes home and says, I'm going to quit my job and chase a dream. So look, yeah, now what na power you Ghana? You? I said, well, I just couldn't convince her. But she knew exactly why I was coming. Oh, baby, sure. So that's what they thought. But of course not. So finally, when things worked out, she was very, very happy. Now she believed me.
Wow. Mm-hmm. You see, so you've gone through all this, refined oil, you become a superstar. Mm-hmm. Speaking platforms, picture everywhere. I mean, you cannot talk oil and miss George Owusu out of the equation. But then suddenly reality hits him that, oh no, something fraudulent must have gone on. But that must be another huge blow.
Well, I wish it was just a blow.
It was just punches.
If it was a blow, I think you could take a blow. It was devastating.
Wow.
I just couldn't believe it. After bringing a whole new industry into a country.
Some people were very convinced that, look, you were fronting for Kufuor.
That's what I'm getting to it. I bet you since that time, Kufuor knew nothing. Kufuor is not a geologist. He's not a geophysicist. The man is a lawyer. And that's the irony, one of the things that makes me so mad. Okay, even if, let's assume Kufuor gave me this block, just for the sake of it. The whole Gulf of Guinea, from Aflao to Hafasini, that's the coastline of Ghana. How will Kufuor know which spot to give me to produce that kind of oil? And you know, in oil drilling, you have a pipe about this big. This is how you find oil. This whole Atlantic Ocean, where will you know the spot to go and drill to find oil? It was hoax, it was fallacy. But for whatever reason, people believe it.
They were very convinced.
The people believe it. And because we live in a country where people don't believe in themselves, so when people find out you did hey, how can you do? Where you come from? I mean, nobody knew who I was because I lived most of my adult life in the United States. GMPC had been there for several years. They tried it over and over and over and failed. And here you come from nowhere. How do you do it? No, somebody must have done so you understand why people be very, very skeptical about this.
25 fraudulent charges,
yes.
23 times through interrogation, not only in Ghana, but in the US.
Yes.
How does the US come involved if you're drilling in, Takoradi, quote unquote?
Okay, let me go back a little bit to answer your question. What happened was there were three partners: Anadarko Petroleum, Cosmos, Tullow Oil, EO Group, and a third company called Sabre Oil. Nobody talks about them. Nobody knows about them. Sabre was also brought in the country by a Ghanaian. They also got their share, but not a word was said about them in the local newspapers or anywhere else. But I became the froster, the poster boy for fraudulent oil deals in the country. That's so sad. I cannot believe it.
Like, you and Cosmos were like the front runners.
Yes.
Why is it that you were so fraudulent or suspected to be so fraudulent but not Cosmos?
Obroni is okay. That's our society. Cosmos got 90-something%. Nobody said a word about that. But whatever I had became the biggest issue. So Obroni can take whatever they want to their home. It's okay. But when the Ghanaian gets his share or whatever, something I've worked for several years.
Because people thought you cheated Ghana. You alone got 3.5%, and somehow the news was that Ghana got 10%.
That was the biggest lie ever told. Unfortunately, we were told we were advised by our lawyers not to say anything because the Ghana government was trying to put us in court. So the lawyer said, don't say anything. It is so sad that people who knew the right story didn't even say it at that time because it is not 10%. According to GMPC's own records, this Jubilee field, Ghana government got between 50 and 55%. That's one part that makes me so angry.
That's adding royalties,
and everything.
Taxes.
Look at the terms of the agreement. Ghana government get 10%, 5% royalty, 10% participation interest, 2.5% paying interest, 35% corporate tax, additional oil entitlements, and also surface rental. Put all that together, it's about between 50 and 55%. But because of politics, people wanted to change the course of whatever we did to make it sound good. Like I was a fraudster and somebody came in from the United States and here you are, one person gets 3.5% while the whole country gets. It was a good story to tell, but it was false. And I want to make that point. Because this is the first time I'm talking to the nation about this and they need to know the truth. And that is one of the reasons why, what motivated me to write this book. I get so angry, so pissed off when people say that. All of a sudden, we found people who cannot spell oil, who cannot even spell GMPC. They became experts, said on TV and made noise and spilled all kinds of nonsense to the Ghanaian media.
People bought
it is sad, and people bought it. Unfortunately, we couldn't talk. We were told not to say anything. And that's one aspect of it. And that's one reason why I had to set the record straight. Ghana government did not get 10%. Go and ask GMPC, ask Petroleum Commission, ask those people who know. They got between 50 and 55%. And I'm so glad, I'm so happy that I was able to bring an industry into the country whereby an industry which didn't exist. Look at the number of people this oil has employed in the country. Secondary Takrady was a dying city. Railways didn't work anymore. Most of the ports, the ports were dying until we went to Secondary Takrady. Look at it now. You cannot even rent an apartment in Secondary Takrady. Look at all the businesses which have come in. But unfortunately, because of the politics and the way we try to pull people down in this country, all these falsehoods were spread about us. And now, almost when you have your own family members asking you these questions, how did you cheat the government? By you alone taking 3.5%. What they didn't know was my 3.5% came from Cosmos' share. Nothing to do with Ghana government. Nothing, zero. But that was the story which was perpetrated. And that's the story people wanted to believe. And it's so sad that we can do that to our own countrymen. We don't talk about the 90% or before Cosmos, almost every company who came in had their 90% taken away from the country. Cosmos was the only one who had 86.5% because 3.5% of that came to a Ghanaian. And what would I do with the money? I'm building a hospital right here in Ghana because I was born here. My roots are here. My parents.
But your assets, after all this, your assets were frozen.
Yes. During the investigation, let me tell you about that. What happened was I was interrogated about 13 times here in the country. One time I was sick. As part of the interrogation, I got sick. I have high blood pressure. So when they put you in your room and they pushed you with questions and questions and questions, I was been to the CID, BNI, several times. My pressure was going up. So I went to see my doctor. My doctor asked me to, he gave me a note for me to take to my lawyer. As I was presenting the note to my lawyer, a phone call came from police headquarters. Why don't you bring Mr. Owusu in? All he had to do is sign a little piece of paper. One day they put me in a room for about 2 hours, not knowing they were gathering all the policemen. I went to that room, they showed me a piece of paper, Mr. Owusu, somebody who has had a heart attack, who has high blood pressure. They said, Mr. Owusu, you get a subpoena from High Court to go and search you. I got downstairs, 2 policemen sat in my car, another vehicle behind me, my car, with about 4 policemen in it. Then there's a bus with about 20 to 50 policemen in a car. I don't even know the exact number, some with guns. And then a dispatch rider, pay pound through the principal streets of Accra, as if I was
oh my God.
Yes, it happened to me. All the way to my office in Cosmos. Searched the office, to the hard drive of my computer. And then after that, I used to live, at that time I lived at Afenya. All the way on the motorway to Afenya. My wife was there, didn't know what was happening.
Stay put, we're coming back. That's a story of a comeback kid. How does he keep going on? Because by this time, I would have said, you know what, forget it. I'm going back to America. Don't go, we're coming straight back. In pursuit of Jubilee. That's not an easy pursuit at all. But George, I can imagine how embarrassing it will be. You're going through all this. Wife has said no, no, no. Eventually we strike oil, so she's here with you now. She's at home minding her own business. And there's my quote and unquote criminal husband with a team of people coming. What is happening?
That was terrible. And the place my house was in the what do you call it? Closed community? What is it? Gated community.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I got there, of course, everybody was okay. It was so embarrassing. But that's Ghana. They do it. They can bring you down in a minute, and they did. And you asked a question about the FBI, how the FBI got involved. Okay. In America, they have a law called FCP, a Foreign Corrupt Practice Act. And Anaco Petroleum, being a partner, wanted to, because of all this false information flying around, they also wanted to make sure that Kufuor was not part of it or had not bribed my way into the block. So they had to investigate. They interrogated me about 2 times, one in Washington, D.C., to me and my partner, Dr. Lise, was also interrogated. And then, when I came back here in the country, as a matter of fact, Ghana government was also interrogating me. And
so, okay, if you say partner, which means that 3.5% is not for you alone.
Oh, no. Mr. I formed a company, the EO group, with Dr. Dusay.
Okay.
Who was a doctor in the United States. And there's one point I need to stress here. When we were doing all these deals, Dr. Dusay was not an ambassador. Later on, he became an ambassador. Okay. But everything was done before he became an ambassador to Austria. But there's been some misinformation in the media, or when the man was an ambassador, he was doing his own business. No, that is not true. The man was a physician, he's a doctor in Washington, D.C., was my friend. We formed a company together and did this. And the 3.5%, as I keep repeating, did not come from Ghana government share. Please, write that on a big, bold sign for Ghanaians to know that mine 3.5%,
i.e. you and Dr. Dusay.
Dr. Dusay, when I say mine, I keep saying mine, but I mean the EO group's 3.5% did not come from Ghana government share. It came from Cosmos's share, because I didn't have anything to do with Ghana government. I went in and brought Cosmos, and instead of them paying me whatever, I say, hey, look, this is what we want. So Cosmos didn't pay us. They gave us some stipends, and because I was leaving the country to come and work.
Which was quite bad, because, you know, you realize that there were even junior officers who were earning much, much more than you were earning.
These people were paying me $3,000 a month. One Obroni in Takrady, who was just a logistics officer, was being paid $45,000 a month.
Telephone bills being paid for, transportation, accommodation. And you had to do all this out of your 3,000?
Out of my 3,000.
Wow.
Okay. The sacrifice I had to endure to get this through.
On the subject of sacrifice, here you are in the bank, you know, times are hard. You still have, you know, your oil equity, so you're trying to see, look, if I can get some loan to move about. Somebody walks in and says, hey, this guy, forget it. I mean, I would have sunk.
So that was very, very embarrassing. We went to a bank out of Geneva, And the guys came in here, they were trying to see if I could raise a loan to support myself and also pay our cash call. We entered the bank with this white guy who was just flowing in from Europe. One Ghanaian saw us. He said, hi, Akwawe. I mean, telling the Brony, no. You want to deal with him? Okay. So basically,
oh my God.
Brony had to walk away from me. And I became, I wanted to dig a hole and bury my head in it. My fellow Ghanaian, okay? Obroni had come in from Abrochi to see if he could help me. And we walk into a bank, and my fellow Ghanaian tells them,
too corrupt,
this guy, you don't want to be seen working with him. Otherwise, whatever business you have in this country will go away. So stay away from this guy.
You see, but on the subject of staying away, so did Cosmos. Walking up to the office and say, look, enough of this MPP, NDC, your AG is investigating you. I mean, we can't be associated with you, no matter how good it is. Please, let's part companies. That's another blow.
Yeah, what happened was that Cosmos came in, they talked to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General, Betty Molde-Drisu, at that time, told them, hey, your country manager is being investigated for fraud, money laundering, or whatever. I don't know.
25 charges.
And so, of course, Cosmos panicked. They've taken money from private equity firms trying to pursue a dream. Why would they let somebody mess up their whole corporate structure? So it was easy for them to kick it. I was in the office, they came in and said, hey, George, the Attorney General says you've been investigated, and they said you've been arrested. I was not arrested. I was never arrested.
But Cosmos had done a due diligence on you.
Oh, yeah. But, of course, they wanted to save their business. So they fired me, took their car, took their bungalow, took their laptop, their phone, everything. And then a few days later, the Ghana government also froze my assets. My assets were frozen for 5 years. So I didn't have a place to live. My assets were frozen. No money. You've been fired from a job. One gentleman in town called Alex Brooks. I can force him to so I'm sorry. Okay. Alex Brooks offered me his house and said, Penny, go and stay in there. Get yourself together until you are, things get okay. And that's what happened. For 5 years, I couldn't transact any business in this country. My assets were frozen. It was not until, I think, 2013 or 2014 that finally.
You could.
Yes.
Did they find anything? I mean, out of the 25 charges, did one stick? Well, maybe one minor one?
They couldn't even go to court. They didn't go to court. The charges were prepared, and somehow it leaked into the press. That's how I found out about it. And the Attorney General was angry. We're going to conduct investigation. We're going to find out who did this and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what happened. But the bottom line is, no charge was ever filed against us, me and my partner or anybody else.
Why was Cosmos dropped? Because you obviously you find out in the press that you're going to be going to court, but you realize that it's just EU. There's no Cosmos, and it was like $1.3 billion fraud. Out of your 3.5 percent share in the group, you were bringing in the most amazing amount of fraud. How was that adding up? What were your lawyers saying?
And that's what they call politics. Politics took over to the extent that even the lawyers forgot what they were doing. They charged me with conspiracy. I'm not a lawyer, but when they say conspiracy, two people have to conspire. If I do something alone, it's just me. But if it's conspiracy to commit something, you might have done it with somebody else. But now, it happened, it's only you who did it. What happened to Cosmos? A Brunei company.
Wow.
They could not touch Cosmos. Why? If you go to file charges against me, file charges against Cosmos too. It never happened.
In pursuit of Jubilee, indeed, if you want a part of Ghana history, because George, without a shadow of the doubt, you led the oil revolution in Ghana. We cannot write that part of history without mentioning your name. It's written indelible. But there are many young men out there today who are in pursuit, probably not in oil, but maybe one thing or the other. Should they follow what you did, or maybe you pushed it too much and, hey, look, when you get to this point, you should stop? What would you have to say before I close the show? What would you have to advise the young ones?
Before I answer that question, I want to say something. I was not a revolutionary, or I had to stand on the shoulders of some people who did a lot of work at GMPC and other places before I came around. Even all those who failed, all the wells that were drilled, even though they failed, it taught us a lesson. It told us where not to go. So I cannot sit here and take all the credit for it. Sure. You know, a lot of people work very hard to find oil for the country, except that I came in at the right time to find I don't want to say I, it's not me. Cosmos and the EU group and all the partners came in at the right time to find it.
Well, if you had given up, maybe you would have still been searching.
Yes, we had to stand on their shoulders to do it. But yes, I didn't give up. And so my advice to young men and women is very, very simple. Integrity is very, very important. Honesty, hard work. Pay your taxes. Go through the front door, not the back door. Don't cut corners. That's the only road to success. Just be persistent. Work hard, harder than anybody else, because as I said earlier on, hard work usually pays. And if you don't do it and you decide to be lazy, you'll always be poor. And please, after you've done whatever you want to do, tell the truth, pay your taxes, and do the right thing. And that is the only way. These people could have taken my asset from me. After doing all this work, if I had done any of the things that they thought I've done, they would have taken it from me. In fact, they went to the Registrar General's department to see about the registration of EU Group. And if they have found something real bad, the seed of the poison tree, they could have taken away EU Group. And when EU Group is taken away, then everything that EU Group did was also bad. That's how vicious they were, and that's how serious. So if you're doing anything, don't think, oh, I had a sign will be here. No, don't do it. Follow the rules. Do it right. Because you never know when somebody will be coming after you. So be careful. Whatever you do, do it right and do well and follow the rules. Thank you.
George, how much are you worth for your hard work?
What? How much are you paid every month? If you tell me your salary, maybe I'll tell you mine.
Well, folks, that was intriguing. I just wish I had 3 more hours. Honestly, I wish I had 3 more hours to take you through this book. Some of the ups, some of the downs, some of the lows, some of the very, very lows, and then up again. But then here he is, enjoying in his home, free man who is now enjoying his toils and his fruit of his labor. And just like he said, be good, be honest, go through the front door, let integrity be your hallmark, and you know what? Victory would always be yours, because good would always triumph over evil. This has been one of the beautiful interviews I've had. My name is Nana Ansakwa IV. This has been Personality Profile with Exception. George Yaw Owusu. George, thank you so much for this pleasure.
Thank you very much for giving me the chance to what is on my chest.